Admiral Zethkar stood frozen before the massive holographic display in the command center of the Galactic Dominion's flagship, Eternal Supremacy. The readings scrolling across the luminescent screens defied every strategic model, every tactical doctrine, and every assumption about warfare that the Empire had held sacred for over 3 millennia. A single human vessel, barely larger than a standard patrol frigate, had just obliterated the Third Battle Fleet. The silence in the command center was deafening. Dozens of the Empire's finest military minds stared at the tactical display, watching the debris of what had once been 247 warships drift through space like cosmic dust. The human craft, identified only as UESV Pioneer, continued its steady course toward the outer rim of the Kepler 442 system, seemingly unbothered by the destruction it had just unleashed. "Report," Zethkar commanded, his voice barely above a whisper. His 4 arms trembled slightly as he gripped the command rail, his scaled hide shifting from its usual deep purple to an alarmed shade of amber. Commander Veltara, the fleet's chief tactical analyst, approached with obvious reluctance. Her normally confident bearing had been replaced by something that looked disturbingly like terror. "Sir, the enemy vessel engaged our forces at 1400 hours, standard time. Initial contact protocols were followed. We broadcast the standard surrender demands in 37 languages, including the primitive human tongues we've cataloged. And their response? They transmitted a single message. We decline. Then they did this." Veltara gestured weakly at the debris field displayed in the hologram. Zethkar's primary eyes narrowed, while his secondary pair focused on the tactical breakdown streaming beside the main display. The numbers made no sense. The human vessel had been outnumbered 247 to 1. It should have been vaporized within seconds of entering weapons range. Instead, it had systematically dismantled the entire fleet with a precision that bordered on the supernatural. "How?" Zethkar asked. "We're still analyzing the combat data, but preliminary reports suggest they used some form of directed energy weapon we've never encountered. The beams appeared to ignore our deflector screens entirely, passing through them as if they weren't there. Each shot seemed to target critical systems with surgical precision. Power cores, command bridges, life support systems. They weren't trying to destroy our ships so much as neutralize them." "Neutralize?" "Sir, most of our vessels are still intact. The crews are dead, but the ships themselves suffered minimal structural damage. It's as if the humans wanted to preserve the hardware while eliminating the organic components." A chill ran down Zethkar's spine. In 3 centuries of military service, he had never encountered a species that fought with such calculated efficiency. The standard galactic approach to warfare was overwhelming force. Blast the enemy into constituent atoms and sort out the details later. This surgical precision suggested a level of technological sophistication that the Empire's scientists had insisted was impossible. "What's the status of the human vessel?" "Unchanged, sir. No damage detected. No decrease in energy signatures. They're maintaining course and speed as if nothing happened." "Where are they heading?" Veltara's skin shifted to a sickly green hue. "Based on their current trajectory, they appear to be conducting some form of survey mission. Long-range sensors indicate they're taking detailed scans of every stellar body in the system, cataloging resources, planetary compositions, stellar wind patterns. It's as if they're mapping the entire system for future reference." The implications hit Zethkar like a physical blow. This wasn't an invasion fleet or a conquest armada. This was reconnaissance. The humans were scouting, gathering intelligence, preparing for something much larger. If a single scout vessel could destroy an entire battle fleet, what could their main force accomplish? "Have we made contact with High Command?" "Yes, sir. Emperor Drakthol has been briefed. He's ordered the immediate mobilization of the 1st, 2nd, and 4th Imperial fleets." Zethkar felt his stomach drop. The Emperor was calling up nearly half of the Empire's total military strength to deal with a single human vessel. Either His Imperial Majesty had lost his mind, or he understood something about this situation that hadn't yet occurred to his field commanders. "Sir," another voice called from across the command center. Communications Officer Hrendal approached at a rapid pace, his usual professional composure replaced by barely controlled panic. "We're receiving transmissions from across the outer territories. Multiple systems are reporting similar contacts." "Similar contacts?" "Human vessels, sir. Single ships, just like the one here. They've appeared in 17 different systems over the past 6 hours. All of them are conducting what appears to be detailed reconnaissance operations." The blood in Zethkar's veins turned to ice water. 17 systems. The humans weren't just scouting Kepler 442, they were mapping the entire outer rim of the Empire. This wasn't a random exploration mission or a desperate probe by a dying civilization. This was preparation for war on a scale that defied imagination. Are the other fleets engaging these contacts? "Some have tried, sir. The results are consistent with our experience here." Zethkar didn't need to ask for clarification. 17 battle fleets, thousands of ships, tens of thousands of the Empire's finest warriors, all reduced to space debris by individual human scouts. The mathematical impossibility of it made his head spin. "There's more, sir," Hrendal continued. "Long-range communication arrays have detected massive energy signatures in the Sol system." "The human homeworld?" "Yes, sir. The signatures are unlike anything in our databases. The energy output is substantial." "How substantial?" "Sir, the readings suggest construction projects on a scale comparable to our largest shipyard facilities. Multiple projects running simultaneously. Based on the power consumption patterns, they appear to be building something very large." "Many somethings." Zethkar's mind raced through the tactical implications. The humans had appeared seemingly from nowhere, with technology that made the Empire's most advanced weapons look like primitive clubs. Their scout vessels were individually more powerful than entire fleets, and now intelligence suggested they were engaged in massive construction projects at their homeworld. "How long until the Imperial reinforcements arrive?" 72 hours for the advance elements of the Second Fleet. Full deployment of all 3 fleets will take approximately 1 standard week. Will it matter? The question hung in the air like a toxic cloud. Veltara and Hrendal exchanged glances, neither wanting to voice the obvious conclusion. If human scouts could destroy battle fleets, what chance did even the Empire's full military might have against whatever was being constructed in the Sol system? "Sir," Veltara said finally, "I've been reviewing the combat data in detail. There's something else you need to see." She activated a secondary display showing a detailed breakdown of the battle's timeline. The human vessel's movements were highlighted in red, tracing a complex pattern through the fleet formation. "Watch the engagement sequence," she said. Zethkar studied the display as the battle unfolded in accelerated time. The human vessel didn't attack randomly or opportunistically. Instead, it followed a precise pattern, targeting specific ships in a specific order. Command vessels first, then heavy cruisers, then support craft, and finally, fighters and escorts. The entire engagement was choreographed like a deadly dance. "They knew our fleet composition before the battle began," Zethkar realized. "More than that, sir. Look at the timing." The timestamps showed that each attack was perfectly coordinated, not just with the human vessel's position, but with the tactical responses of the Imperial fleet. Every evasive maneuver, every return volley, every attempt at regrouping had been anticipated and countered before it began. "They've been watching us," Zethkar whispered. "For how long, we don't know. But this level of tactical prediction suggests extensive observation and analysis. They know how we fight, how we think, how we respond to threats. This entire engagement was less of a battle and more of a Demonstration. A demonstration of what? Capability, sir. They wanted us to see what a single scout could do. They wanted us to report back to High Command. They wanted the Empire to know that resistance is futile. The realization struck Zethkar like a plasma bolt to the chest. The humans weren't trying to win this battle, they were sending a message. The systematic destruction of the Third Battle Fleet wasn't warfare. It was a statement of intent. They were announcing their presence and demonstrating their technological superiority in the most direct way possible. "Sir," Hrendal called from his station, "the human vessel is transmitting again. Put it through." The main display shifted to show a communication interface. No visual appeared. Apparently, the humans preferred audio-only contact. When the voice came through the speakers, it was calm, professional, and utterly without emotion. "Imperial Forces, this is Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earth space vessel Pioneer. We have completed our survey of this system and are preparing to depart. Please relay the following message to your command authority." Zethkar found himself leaning forward despite his best efforts to maintain composure. "The territories you claim in the Outer Rim sectors contain resources and strategic positions that humanity requires for our expansion. We are prepared to negotiate for the peaceful transfer of these systems, but negotiation is not a requirement. You have witnessed the capabilities of a single scout vessel. Our main fleets are currently en route to these territories and will arrive within 96 of your standard hours." The transmission paused, and Zethkar could hear his own heartbeat in the sudden silence. "We suggest you use this time to consider your response carefully. We have no desire for unnecessary conflict, but we will not be deterred from our objectives. Captain Chen out." The communication ended, leaving the command center in stunned silence. 96 hours. Less than 4 days before the humans arrived in force. The Empire's reinforcements wouldn't even be fully deployed by then. "Sir, what are your orders?" Veltara asked. Zethkar stared at the debris field that had once been his fleet, then at the steadily departing human vessel that had created it. For the first time in his long military career, he found himself facing an enemy that was not just superior, but so far beyond the Empire's capabilities that resistance seemed not just futile, but absurd. "Signal High Command," he said finally. "Inform Emperor Drakthul that immediate evacuation of the Outer Rim territories should be considered, and prepare a full tactical report on everything we've witnessed here. If the humans are coming, the Empire needs to know exactly what it's facing." As the Pioneer disappeared into hyperspace, leaving behind the wreckage of 247 starships and the shattered assumptions of an empire, Zethkar couldn't shake the feeling that he had just witnessed the end of an age. The Galactic Dominion had ruled unchallenged for millennia, but humanity had just announced that their time was over. And this was only the beginning. Emperor Drakthul of the Galactic Dominion stood in the center of the Imperial War Room, his massive form casting long shadows across the holographic battle displays that surrounded him. At nearly 3 meters tall and weighing close to 400 kilograms, the reptilian monarch was an imposing figure even among his own genetically enhanced warrior caste. His scarred hide bore the marks of countless battles, and his eyes held the cold intelligence that had allowed him to maintain power for over 2 centuries. But now, for the first time since his coronation, those eyes showed something his advisors had never seen before: uncertainty. "Show me the reports again," he commanded, his voice a low rumble that seemed to vibrate through the reinforced walls of the war room. High Admiral Kreshatar, Supreme Commander of the Imperial Military Forces, activated the central display. 17 separate tactical reports appeared in the air above them, each one documenting the same impossible outcome. Single human vessels had engaged and destroyed entire battle fleets across the Outer Rim territories. The combined casualty count was staggering: over 4,000 ships destroyed, Nearly 2 million Imperial personnel killed or missing, and not a single confirmed human casualty. The pattern is consistent across all encounters, Your Imperial Majesty, Kreshtar reported. Human scouts appear in system, conduct detailed surveys, and when challenged by our forces, they respond with overwhelming technological superiority. In every case, the engagement follows the same pattern: precise, surgical strikes that neutralize our vessels while preserving their structural integrity. "They're collecting our ships," observed Grand Strategist Mordoon, the Empire's chief military theorist. "Each battle leaves behind intact hulls with dead crews. They're not trying to eliminate our fleet, they're acquiring our technology." Emperor Drakthul's tail lashed with agitation. "For what purpose?" "Analysis, Your Majesty. They're reverse engineering our weapons, our shields, our propulsion systems. They want to understand our capabilities completely before their main force arrives." The Emperor turned his attention to the figure standing quietly in the corner of the room. Dr. Velmiran, the Empire's leading xenobiologist and the foremost expert on alien psychology in the known galaxy, had been studying the human transmissions and behavior patterns since the first reports arrived. "What is your assessment, Doctor?" Dr. Velmiran stepped forward, her normally pristine scientific robes wrinkled from days of intense research. "Your Majesty, humanity represents something we've never encountered before. Every species we've absorbed into the Empire has followed predictable patterns. They expand gradually, test boundaries, seek negotiation or submission when faced with superior force. Humans are different." "How so?" "They appear overnight with technology decades ahead of our own, conduct systematic reconnaissance across multiple systems simultaneously, and demonstrate their superiority through carefully calculated displays of force. This isn't the behavior of an emerging spacefaring civilization. This is the behavior of a species that has been preparing for galactic expansion for generations." Emperor Drakthul's claws extended involuntarily. "Preparing how?" "Consider the timeline, Your Majesty. Humans achieved spaceflight approximately 200 standard years ago. Based on our intelligence networks, they remained confined to their own solar system for the first century and a half. No expansion, no exploration beyond their immediate neighborhood. We assumed they were technologically stagnant. But they weren't. No, Your Majesty. They were learning. During those 150 years, they were observing us. They intercepted our communications, studied our expansion patterns, analyzed our military doctrines, and mapped our entire civilization. While we dismissed them as a primitive backwater species, they were conducting the most comprehensive intelligence operation in galactic history." The implications sent a chill through the assembled commanders. The Empire had been under observation for over a century, studied like laboratory specimens by a species they had never even considered a threat. "The evidence supports this theory," Dr. Velmiran continued. "Their tactical knowledge of our fleet compositions, their precise targeting of our command structures, their ability to predict our responses, all of this suggests intimate familiarity with our military systems. They've been watching us fight wars for generations. And now they're ready to fight their own," High Admiral Kreshtar concluded grimly. "Not fight, Admiral. Win. Everything we've witnessed suggests that humanity doesn't engage in warfare as we understand it. They eliminate opposition with mathematical precision. No glory, no honor, no dramatic battles, just efficient removal of obstacles to their objectives." Emperor Drakthul moved to the primary tactical display, studying the positions of the surviving Imperial fleets. "What is the status of our forces?" "All Outer Rim fleets have been neutralized or have withdrawn to defensive positions. The 1st, 2nd, and 4th Imperial fleets are en route to establish a defensive perimeter around the core systems, but they won't be in position for another 72 hours. And the humans? Long-range sensors indicate massive fleet movements in the Sol system. Energy signatures suggest vessels of unprecedented size. Some readings indicate ships over 20 kilometers in length. Conservative estimates place their fleet strength at several thousand vessels, but the true number could be significantly higher. 20-kilometer warships. The Empire's largest dreadnoughts were barely 3 kilometers from bow to stern. If the sensor readings were accurate, humanity was deploying vessels that dwarfed anything in the Imperial fleet. "Your Majesty," came a new voice from the communication station. "We're receiving a priority transmission from the human fleet. Put it through." The display shifted to show an audio waveform. When the transmission began, the voice was different from the scout captain, deeper, older, carrying an authority that seemed to resonate through the room itself. "Emperor Drakthul of the Galactic Dominion, I am Fleet Admiral Marcus Rivera, Supreme Commander of the United Earth Expeditionary Force. You have now had sufficient time to evaluate the capabilities demonstrated by our scout vessels. I trust the message was clear." The Emperor's jaw clenched, but he remained silent. "Humanity has no quarrel with your empire, provided you respect our expansion requirements. We have identified 47 star systems within your Outer Rim territories that contain resources essential to our colonization program. The transfer of these systems to human administration can proceed peacefully, or it can proceed through force. The choice is yours." 47 systems, High Admiral Kreshitar whispered. "That's nearly a quarter of our Outer Rim holdings." The transmission continued. "You have 16 of your standard hours to respond. During this time, our advance elements will take position around the systems in question. Any Imperial vessels that remain in these systems after the deadline will be considered hostile and dealt with accordingly." 16 hours, Dr. Velmiran observed. "They're not negotiating, they're dictating terms. Should you choose to resist, be aware that what you have witnessed thus far represents approximately 0.3% of our total military capability. Our main battle fleets are equipped with weapons and defensive systems that make our scout vessels look primitive by comparison." Emperor Drakthul's breathing had become noticeably heavier. 0.3%. The scouts that had destroyed 17 battle fleets represented less than 1% of humanity's military strength. "We harbor no illusions about your response, Emperor. Your species has never yielded territory without a fight, and we don't expect you to begin now. Therefore, we are prepared to demonstrate the futility of resistance through direct action. Within the next 8 hours, we will eliminate the 3rd, 7th, and 9th Imperial defense stations as a final warning of our capabilities." The defense stations. Each one was a massive fortress, armed with weapons capable of destroying entire fleets, protected by shield systems that could withstand the combined firepower of a dozen dreadnoughts. They were considered the Empire's most secure installations, positioned to guard the approaches to the core worlds. "This demonstration will be conducted with minimal loss of life. We will allow sufficient time for evacuation before each station is destroyed. We suggest you use this opportunity to observe our methods and consider whether continued resistance serves your people's interests." The transmission paused, and in that silence, Emperor Drakthul found himself contemplating the impossible. For 2,000 years, the Empire had expanded unchecked across the galaxy. They had conquered, absorbed, or destroyed every species they encountered. The concept of yielding territory to an alien power was so foreign that the Imperial language didn't even have words for it. "Admiral Rivera out." The war room fell silent. Emperor Drakthul stood motionless for several minutes, his massive form radiating the barely controlled fury that had made him legendary among his people. But beneath the rage, his advisors could see something else: the cold calculation of a strategic mind grappling with an unprecedented situation. "Your orders, Your Majesty?" High Admiral Kreshitar asked finally. "Begin immediate evacuation of the 3rd, 7th, and 9th defense stations. All personnel, all equipment that can be moved, all classified materials. Complete evacuation within 6 hours. Your Majesty, surely we're not going to simply— We're going to watch, the Emperor interrupted. We're going to observe exactly how these humans destroy installations that have stood for 5 centuries. We're going to learn everything we can about their weapons, their tactics, their limitations. And then Emperor Drakthul turned to face his assembled commanders, and they saw in his eyes not the fury they expected, but the cold intelligence of a predator adapting to new circumstances. And then we're going to make them regret underestimating what it means to threaten the Galactic Dominion. They may have superior technology, but they've revealed their intentions, their timeline, and their strategic objectives. They want those 47 systems? Let them take them. Every system they occupy will become a trap. Every resource they claim will become a weapon turned against them. Your Majesty, they've made one critical error in their planning, Admiral. They assume that overwhelming technological superiority guarantees victory. But technology is just tools. Victory belongs to whoever is willing to pay the highest price to achieve it. Emperor Drakthul activated the empire-wide communication system, preparing to address every imperial citizen across thousands of worlds. Citizens of the Galactic Dominion, we face an enemy unlike any in our history. They are technologically superior, strategically prepared, and tactically efficient. They believe these advantages make them invincible. Today, we begin teaching them the difference between winning battles and surviving wars. The message would reach every corner of the empire within hours, triggering mobilization protocols that hadn't been used in over 3 centuries. The full military might of a galactic empire was about to be unleashed, not in conquest, but in the defense of everything they had built. But even as he spoke the words of defiance, Emperor Drakthul couldn't shake the growing certainty that he was about to lead his people into a war they were destined to lose. The only question was how much damage they could inflict before the inevitable end. In 8 hours, they would have their first real demonstration of human military power. And then, Emperor Drakthul thought grimly, the real war would begin. Admiral Zethkar watched through the reinforced observation deck of the command station Iron Resolve as the evacuation transports departed from Defense Station Gamma 7. The massive fortress, which had guarded the approach to the Vega system for over 400 years, was now a hollow shell, its 30,000 personnel, critical equipment, and classified systems safely aboard the fleeing vessels. He checked his chronometer. The humans had given them 8 hours to evacuate. They had completed the task in 6. All evacuation transports are clear of the station's defensive perimeter, reported his tactical officer. Minimum safe distance achieved. And our observation platforms? Positioned at maximum sensor range. We'll have clear readings on whatever the humans do to Gamma 7. Zethkar nodded, though his stomach churned with anticipation. 3 defense stations were about to be destroyed in a demonstration of human military power. Each station was a monument to imperial engineering, massive constructs bristling with enough firepower to level entire fleets, protected by energy shields that could withstand the focused fire of a dozen dreadnoughts. If the humans could destroy them easily, as their admiral had suggested, then the Empire truly was facing an enemy beyond their comprehension. "Contact from the human fleet, sir," called the communications officer. "Put it through." The same authoritative voice that had addressed Emperor Drakthul filled the command center. "Imperial forces observing Defense Station Gamma 7, this is Admiral Rivera. Your evacuation was efficiently conducted. Commendable. The demonstration will begin in 60 seconds. I recommend your sensors be configured for broad-spectrum analysis. You'll want complete data on what you're about to witness." The transmission ended, leaving Zethkar and his crew to stare at the tactical displays showing the ancient fortress hanging in space, its running lights still active, its automated systems maintaining perfect operational status, despite the absence of its crew. "Sensors configured for maximum resolution," his science officer reported. "All recording systems active. Visual contact with approaching human vessels? Negative, sir. Long-range sensors detect significant mass movements approximately 50,000 kilometers beyond our detection threshold. But whatever they're using for stealth technology is beyond our current scanning capabilities. 50 seconds. Zethkar found himself counting down in his head, wondering what form the destruction would take. Would it be a massive bombardment from heavy weapons? Some kind of exotic energy beam? Perhaps they would simply ram the station with one of their enormous vessels. 30 seconds. The tactical display showed Gamma 7 in perfect detail, every weapon emplacement, every shield generator, every critical system highlighted in the fortress's defensive network. The station's AI continued its routine patrol patterns, unaware that its destruction was imminent. 10 seconds. Sir, the science officer called urgently, I'm detecting a massive energy buildup. Source unknown, but the power readings are... The universe turned white. Even through the heavy filtering of the observation deck's protective systems, the flash was intense enough to trigger automatic blast screens. For 3 seconds, every sensor reading maxed out. Every display showed nothing but brilliant white light, and even the ship's artificial gravity fluctuated under the stress of whatever energies were being unleashed. When the light faded and the displays came back online, Defense Station Gamma 7 was gone. Not destroyed in any conventional sense, simply gone. No debris field, no expanding cloud of superheated gas, no residual energy signatures. The space where 4 centuries of Imperial engineering had stood was now completely empty, as if the station had never existed at all. Report, Zethkar whispered. Sir, I'm not sure how to report this. Gamma 7 has been completely disintegrated, not just destroyed, disintegrated at the molecular level. There's no trace of it remaining. No debris? No energy signatures? Nothing, sir. It's as if the station was simply deleted from existence. Zethkar felt his legs weaken. The defense stations were massive structures. Gamma 7 alone had measured over 8 kilometers across and contained enough metal to build 100 cruisers. To completely disintegrate something of that size and mass would require energies approaching those found in stellar cores. Are we receiving similar reports from the other observation points? Yes, sir. Defense stations Alpha 3 and Beta 9 have been eliminated in identical fashion. Complete molecular disintegration, no residual traces. 3 of the Empire's most powerful fortresses had been erased from existence in a matter of seconds. The implications were staggering. If humans could deploy such weapons against fixed installations, what could they do to mobile fleets? To planets? To entire star systems? Sir, incoming transmission from the human fleet. Put it through. Admiral Rivera's voice seemed even more ominous now that Zethkar had witnessed the true scope of human capabilities. Imperial observers, I trust your sensor readings were comprehensive. What you have just witnessed represents 1% of our standard fleet firepower applied against stationary targets. Our main battle formations are equipped with weapons considerably more powerful than what you've just observed. Zethkar's hands were shaking now. 1% of standard firepower. The weapons that had just erased 3 defense stations were among the weakest in the human arsenal. You now have 14 hours and 37 minutes to respond to our territorial requirements. I suggest you relay these observations to your Emperor with appropriate context. Admiral Rivera out. The communication ended, leaving the command center in stunned silence. Around him, Zethkar could see his crew struggling to process what they had witnessed. These were experienced military personnel, veterans of dozens of campaigns, but none of them had ever seen anything like the casual demonstration of power they had just observed. Sir, his communications officer called, we're receiving priority transmissions from across the fleet. Similar demonstrations have been conducted at 15 different locations throughout the Empire. All defense installations targeted have been completely destroyed. 15 demonstrations. The humans weren't just making a point. They were systematically eliminating the Empire's most powerful fixed defenses while simultaneously gathering intelligence on Imperial response times, sensor capabilities, and military deployment patterns. Signal Fleet Command. Transmit all sensor data immediately. Full tactical analysis of the weapon systems used, energy signatures, everything we recorded. Already done, sir. Fleet Command is requesting your immediate assessment of human military capabilities. Zethkar looked at the empty space where Gamma 7 had been, then at his tactical displays showing the positions of the remaining Imperial fleets. How do you fight an enemy that can delete your fortresses from existence with weapons they consider insignificant? Tell Fleet Command that conventional resistance is impossible. The humans aren't just technologically superior. They're operating with weapons that redefine the fundamental nature of warfare. Our shields, our armor, our tactical doctrines. None of it matters against enemies who can disintegrate matter at the molecular level. Sir, surely there must be some way to— Lieutenant, Zethkar interrupted. They erased 3 defense stations without even becoming visible to our sensors. Whatever ships delivered those weapons are still out there, still invisible, still waiting. For all we know, they could eliminate this entire observation fleet just as easily. The young officer's skin went pale. Around the command center, other crew members were beginning to realize the same terrifying truth. They weren't just outmatched, they were completely helpless. Sir, incoming transmission from Imperial High Command. Put it through. Emperor Drakthul's voice filled the command center, and even across the vast distance of space, his fury was tangible. Admiral Zethkar, you will proceed immediately to rendezvous with the combined 1st and 2nd fleets. We are implementing Protocol 7. Protocol 7. Zethkar felt his blood turn to ice. Protocol 7 was the Empire's ultimate military doctrine. Total war with no concern for casualties, collateral damage, or consequences. It had been used only twice in Imperial history, both times against species that had posed existential threats to the Empire's survival. Your Majesty, with respect, I must advise against Protocol 7. The human technological advantage is so overwhelming that— Admiral, you will follow orders. The humans want 47 systems. We will make them pay for every planet, every moon, every asteroid. If they can delete our fortresses, we will show them what happens when they try to delete an entire empire. The transmission ended, leaving Zethkar staring at his orders. Protocol 7 meant the mobilization of every military asset the Empire possessed, not just the regular fleet, but the reserves, the militias, the civilian conscription forces. It meant turning every Imperial citizen into a combatant, every Imperial world into a fortress. It also meant the Empire was preparing to fight to the death. Sir, shall I set course for the fleet rendezvous? Zethkar nodded slowly. Around him, the crew began implementing the navigation changes that would take them to what might very well be the final battle of their civilization. But even as they followed orders, he could see the doubt in their eyes, the growing realization that they were sailing toward an enemy that might be genuinely unstoppable. As the Iron Resolve jumped to hyperspace, Zethkar found himself wondering if Emperor Drakthul truly believed they could win this war, or if Protocol 7 was simply the Empire's way of ensuring that when they fell, they would fall fighting. Either way, the next 14 hours would determine whether the Galactic Dominion would continue to exist or whether humanity would write its name across the stars in the ashes of the greatest empire the galaxy had ever known. Behind them, in 15 different star systems, empty space marked the spots where the Empire's greatest fortresses had once stood guard. Ahead of them, somewhere in the vast darkness between stars, the human armada was moving. Thousands of vessels carrying weapons that could unmake matter itself, crewed by a species that had spent 2 centuries learning exactly how to destroy everything the Empire had built. The real war was about to begin, and for the first time in his long military career, Admiral Zethkar found himself genuinely uncertain about which side would survive to see its end. But one thing was certain: the galaxy would never be the same again.